but a stream. Hope you guys are all having a phenomenal day, week, month, year, phenomenal life. Um, I had a great day today. Had a wonderful day. I was over there in Rye, over by over by Playland Park. I brought my kid over there because she just wanted to go to Playland Park for so long. And the last time she went was last year. So I decided, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to take you to Playland Park. And we had a good time. She went on most of the rides that she wanted to go on. And last year when we went, she wasn't tall enough to watch or to ride or to go on the bumper cars. Not to ride the bumper cars, but to drive them. And this year she had it was kind of funny because here she is driving a bumper car, but she's like driving around in circles, right? Like this is something completely new. Like she's never done this before. So that was a bit funny, you know what I mean? Just kind of just watching her sort of, learn how to drive. But yeah, but I was there every step of the way. Reagan Riggs, man, how you doing, my guy? Big up yourself. Big up yourself. Yeah, guys. But all in all, I hope you had a blessed day, man. I was just explaining that I took my kid to Playland. Um, Hold on. As a matter of fact, what is it that I'm doing? 76, what's up, my guy? 76 from Germany. Big up yourself, 76. Glad to have you guys, man. Glad to see you guys. It's always phenomenal to see. It's always phenomenal for you. Two of my favorite guys are here at once in this stream. I appreciate that, guys. But yeah, man, it was just a great day. All in all, just to see your kid smile, that puts a smile on your face. It's just easy, right? It's easy. As long as they're happy, you're happy. You know what I mean? You know how that goes. Reagan Riggs knows all about that. Good morning from Germany. We have someone else from Germany called Don Ron. Don Ron, big up yourself. 76. Are you still in Germany or are you now back in the UK? Pretty awesome, I must say, says Reagan Riggs. Oh, German, says Cash. To the Uso paternity. What you talking about, you Us? I just joined. Uso. Us. Big up yourself. Um, how are you going live? I can't, says GTR 76. I think initially you have to have at least at minimum like 60, 50 subscribers. And then once you have like 50 subscribers and then YouTube just sort of approves it. I don't know. I don't think it was always like that, but I guess you have to start like putting out content and then they'll decide, all right, cool. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. Give you access to live. Back in the UK. I hope all is well in the UK with you, my guy. Can I be friends with neighbors that hate my family? That's a bit of a conflict of interest. It depends on your loyalty to your family. That could be deemed as disloyal, but I mean, it's always good to try. I mean, if you're gonna be friends, to try to kind of like squash everything, but that could be a little dangerous at times. But I wouldn't say friends, but I mean, depends on how close you are to your family. To be honest with you, that could be a little tricky though. But ultimately, the choice is yours. Yes, 50 says random human being on Earth. Do you have a favorite Disney movie? Can't think of one right now off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Is Lion King Disney? Maybe Lion King. I don't know. Can't think of one. Um, what kind of content is on this channel? Well, you're about to find out, man. Everything kind of sort of leads back to spirituality on this channel. Everything. It's amazing how spiritual we are as spiritual beings. I posted a picture of my grandfather, which is Frederick Harris. He's also Jamaican, not Jamaican descent. He's Jamaican, right? That's my father's father, Frederick Harris. And I posted a picture. Well, on the thumbnail, you could see my grandfather, Frederick Harris. You'll see Donald Harris, which is Kamala Harris's father. And you see Kamala Harris, right? Because today I received a text message from my father. My father's like, he's really endorsing. I'm not going to go into too much details of what it is that my father said, but he was going into details about, his support for Kamala Harris, right? And then he sort of mentioned, right, made a mention of Kamala being his cousin, right? in which I'm sure my father doesn't know Kamala Harris. I would have known by now if my father knew Kamala Harris, right? So I'm thinking to myself, how sure is he of this, right? I'm going to pick up my daughter. This would be a nice sort of conversation to have with my daughter, right? Because Kamala Harris comes from Jamaica. My grandfather comes from Jamaica. My father's Jamaican. And the Harris, myself, Jamaican. And the Harris family originates evidently in that same region that Kamala Harris's family originated from, right? So I did a little bit of research and I saw where the name Harris somewhat originated, right? It originated from Joseph Alexander Harris, right? So this is what my research said. I don't know how accurate this is or how inaccurate this is, right? So Joseph Alexander Harris was from about 1874, about 1874 to 1939, right? So I don't know if you guys are really going to be able to see how this guy, but that's what Joseph Alexander Harris looks like. Hopefully you guys are able to see. Hopefully it's in focus, but that is Joseph Alexander Harris. And where he was born is unknown, right? But he doesn't really look like a black man, to be completely honest with you. He doesn't. But upon doing a little further research, right, because I stumbled across that name, Joseph Alexander Hamilton, because after my father kind of just opened Pandora's box by, oh, yeah, by the way, she might be our cousin, right? Had to be a distant cousin. There's no way it's a close cousin. I would have known by now, right? So upon doing my research, stumbled across that guy's name. He happens to actually be, I believe, the grandfather or the great-grandfather of Kamala Harris's father, right? So Kamala Harris actually descended from that person. Now, in terms of the Harrises and the Harris family, right? I did some more research because I know how popular the last name Harris is in the United States, right? It's the 25th most popular last name, right? My mother's last name is Smith, and that's actually the number one most popular name in the United States. Last name in the United States is actually Smith, right? Smith is the third most popular name in Jamaica. Harris is number 57. So it's not as many Harrises as I initially thought were in Jamaica. There are only 9,000 and under 500, 9,400 and change, right, of Harrises that are in Jamaica. So the likelihood of a few generations up, us descending, maybe, highly likely, from Joseph Alexander or maybe one of his brothers or whatever it is, right? Maybe one sort of part of my bloodline, right, originated from that gentleman that we shared before, right? However, it's not clear. It's not clear and obvious. It's not something that I could confirm or deny, right? And, I didn't want to just tell my daughter, hey, yeah, this is actual fact, right? That's not something that I could sit up here and prove. Yes, our last name is Harris. Yes, our family is from the same place that Kamala Harris's family is from. Does that automatically mean that, yes, you guys are related? It doesn't always automatically mean that. But when you you zoom out a little bit and you see that there's only 9,400 something Jamaicans with the last name Harris, well, then that's a strong possibility because it's not that many of us, right? And if you think about how many grandparents you have, right? So each of us has 4 grandparents. So that means 16, right? Great-grandparents. And that would mean 16 great-grandparents, 16 times 2, that's what, 32? Maybe my math is mathing. 32 great-great-grandparents. And that would be 64. I don't know how to say it, but great-great-great-grandparents. And 128 great-great-great-grandparents, right? and what, 256, 5 generations up. So it's not that many, to be completely honest with you, right? So when it's all said and done, I kind of thought to myself, well, there might be some likelihood there. Because when it's all said and done, all right, so my grandfather, yes, he was a black man. He was a real light-skinned black man, right? Because he does maybe, not maybe, right? It's he probably did descend from some Europeans, right? As well as Africans as well. And that's sort of just the nature of Jamaica. So 97% of Jamaicans, no matter how dark they are, no matter how light they are, right? Descended from, our ancestors descended from both Africa and Europe. 97, that's damn near 100%, right? So the other 3% that may not have originated from that is the Chinese Jamaicans that are there, the Indian Jamaicans that are there. And, the indigenous Jamaicans are also in that bloodline as well, right? Because they didn't just wipe them out, right? Like, it's in our bloodline as well, right? With the Maroons, right? Which is another part of my family as well. And on my mother's side, my mother's great grandfather, who died in 1985, is Cuban, right? I say that to say this, guys. What exactly is racism, and what exactly is the point of racism? Because if you take a look at my grandfather and I are not the same complexion at all, right? But in terms of our features, everything else is pretty similar, right? Apart from the nose, which was sort of descended from my father's mother, right? Right? But everything else is pretty similar, right? And when I look at pictures of myself, and when I look at my father, and when I look at my daughter, it's like, yeah, it's clear as day that that's my grandfather, right? My uncle, my father, myself, right? All three of us really look like my grandfather, right? And my grandfather, again, was a very light-skinned man. So being young in my grandfather's house, knowing that's my grandfather, I didn't see race. Like, you understand what I'm saying? I just knew that's my grandfather. I knew that's my father's father. And I knew that all we had here was love, right? But then when you come to America, when you move over to America, you start to see how important, quote unquote, race is, right? People will make it known that race is important, right? Like, to them, it's the most important thing. It's their sense of pride, right? It's how people identify themselves, right? It's who people identify as, right? So we've been given this sort of false ID to say that we are just this, right? When in actuality, we're all human beings. So yes, some of us are darker. Some other people are lighter. Some of us have features that are different. Some of us, maybe the majority of our ancestors, descended from a particular area or a particular ethnic group, right? And that may be the dominant genes that's within us. But it doesn't alienate or eliminate the other aspects of ourselves, right? Because without all of that, the accumulation of all of that, then we wouldn't be having this unique experience, right? And people go on and they talk about parallel universes and reincarnation, right? Which are all things that I do believe in, right? But a parallel universe, you see, because we can't recycle our consciousness. I don't know if we could recycle our consciousness, right? I'm not going to say can't, but I don't know if we could recycle our consciousness. And I do know sort of the ego really separates us, right? Even though we are all one, the ego separates us, right? And we sort of need to tell the mind something in order to say, hey, that's Jasper over there, or that's Gregory over there, or that's Dawn, or that's Elizabeth, right? So our mind starts to differentiate Elizabeth from Dawn, and Elizabeth from Jasper and Gregory. You understand what I'm saying? So our eyes see and our mind perceives. So now that our mind is perceiving this is what our brain is telling us that Jessica, who I'm mentioning random names right now, looks like. You understand what I'm saying? So in terms of now parallel universes, since we all come from the bloodline of our foreparents, whatever race, wherever your foreparents are, right? It's them exploring parallel universes, right? Sort of giving their life energy, right, for a unique human experience. That being you, right? So inevitably, without the consciousness, because even though some of our memory is passed down from generation to generation, but without the actual same exact consciousness, right? Are we not our ancestors reincarnated? Are we not our ancestors having this unique experience? Absolutely we are. And at a higher dimension, they never died. Because their bloodline, they passed their bloodline down. So even though the consciousness may not be, even though they might not be in a body where you could identify them, I was telling you guys the other day that I looked in the mirror and I saw my grandfather. And he wasn't here. Well, obviously, energy can't be created nor destroyed. You guys know that. But we're speaking in the third right now. He wasn't here. And I looked at my reflection and I saw that man. Right? For a split second. And I'm not going to lie. I was kind of spooked out. I was just a little spooked out when that happened. To be completely honest with you. Right? Now, we're going to get into some of these questions, but that's something that I just wanted to really just get off my chest because I thought that was very unique. I thought it was incredibly, incredibly unique. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Harris family as well, right? Because, you know, you have people that are saying, oh, Kamala Harris is not black, this, that, and the third. Now, I'm going to clarify, the people that did own the slaves in Kamala Harris's family, they weren't the Harrises, they were the Browns. Okay, so the Browns from Brownstown, Jamaica. Brown is the number one last name in Jamaica. The number one last name in Jamaica is Brown, right? So Kamala Harris actually descended from the Browns as well, right? So the Browns in Brownstown, right, is where a lot of sort of the enslaved people were, right? And it probably was the biggest plantation in Jamaica because, again, there's 69,000, right? So that's damn near 7 times the amount of Harrises that are in Jamaica or Brown, right? So just to clarify that it's not the Harrises that were the big plantation owners, right? It was the Browns, okay? Now, while the Harrises did own land, and while my family owns sort of, how would you say, like different, I wouldn't say farms, right? Sort of like as a family, they have land, they had land, right? My family isn't rich, right? They're not wealthy. But my grandfather's father passed down land in Clarendon, Jamaica to my grandfather for sure, right? And my grandfather also helped his nieces and nephews, gave a piece of the land to his niece. She built a house, gave a piece of land to his nephew. He built a house. And now this is Harris's, but this is my grandfather's maternal nieces and nephews that he gave a piece of the land to, right? Whole bunch of farm, right? His brother had land, whole bunch of oranges, all types of stuff, right? But this came from from my great grandfather or my great grandfather passing down that land to them, right? But yeah, so this is that. Somebody says, Cap, whatever it is that you want to believe, man, I'm not here to try to convince you. Trust me when I tell you that. I really could care less what you think about it, but you know, you could tell you the truth, but whatever it is that you want to believe is completely up to you. I have no problem with that. Trust me when I tell you, brother, I am not trying to convince you of anything. You could believe whatever it is that you choose. Favorite Disney movie? Okay, we were there already. Somebody says, can I be a mod? That's not how you become a mod, to be completely honest with you. If you do want to become a mod in any way, shape, or form, then there has to be some level of consistency. Like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, the bar that Reagan Riggs and Asia have set, people have to really match that in terms of the consistency, in terms of how much did they support what it is that we're doing here, in terms of what it is that they, what they bring to the table. So yeah, I can't just make you a mod off the first time that you ask. That's not how this works. I don't know what it is that you would do. Somebody saying Israel or Palestine. again, I just wish for peace for both of them. That's all I could really say. I can't choose sides in a battle that I don't know anything about or why it started or why it's going on. So hopefully that answers your question. Someone says he was the slave owner. Random human being on earth says he's same person, but guess what? He's gone. He's gone. Remove, actually hide on this channel. Yeah, he's a Trump supporter. He's a Trump supporter. Of course, the Trump supporters, they're gonna spread rumors and say all sorts of stuff. And I'm not against any particular person. Vote however you want to, right? But don't try to sabotage the other party. Don't try to spread lies. Don't try to say that she's not black, right? Because all of the Harrises that I know, they all pretty much are my complexion, are darker, or lighter, right? But it's not, people just have their whole concept that they're just crazy. Owen Rooney. Sorry, man. I've got to go, but have a great night. Peace out, Reagan Riggs. Thank you so much for being here, man. Somebody says, why are you such and such? I smoke too much weed, says this guy. Somebody said he's going to go to the police station and say sorry. Thrifty Simplicity says, hi, how are you? I'm doing well, Thrifty Simplicity. How are you? Had a phenomenal day today. I hope you did as well. Took my daughter to Playland. She's wanted to go there for about a year now. So she finally got the opportunity to go. So, this has just been a phenomenal day for me. Been a phenomenal day for me. Tyrone Biggums says, I love blacks. I own several. Yeah, that's going to get you kicked out of here. I'm a universal time traveler, not to throw you off, says Art of Mind. Okay, I'm gonna kick Keck out of here. He can go as well. Bye. See you later. My mama name. Memory stored in the DNA. Young Payroll says memory stored in the DNA. The body dies, the soul lives on. The soul, you could say the soul, the spirit definitely lives on, right? But if we're talking about the soul, right? Think about the soul. All right, boom. So I'm going to try to simplify it, right? And it's been a while since I actually really, I did briefly look over it the other day, probably like yesterday or 2 days ago. Don't quite remember. But sort of think of your soul as the place where your where your ego resides, right? So the place where your emotions reside, your desires, all of that stuff resides in your soul, right? As far as the spirit is really what connects us directly to source, to source. You understand what I'm saying? Not entirely sure whether or not like how it really works. They're all a part of the same thing, right? But for sure, the spirit for sure lives on, right? The spirit for sure lives on. Memory is stored in the DNA. You are right. Yo, where Reagan Riggs at? Reagan Riggs actually just left, Emma. He just left. Mind over matter. Adam, Atomb. Young Payola. That's a fantastic perspective, man. I appreciate that. I heard my father once. We on some deep ish. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? Why does our society define identity by race and sex? Aren't there better traits to identify that could unite everyone? Well, all right. So here's my thing. You could identify, all right, let's say if one is positive charge and one is a negative charge. Let's say because the male sort of anatomy is more sort of like positively charged towards something, right? Like it goes toward the female anatomy, right? And the female anatomy sort of takes in. Let's say the male is the positive charge and the female is the negative charge, right? You might need something to identify that, right? So, but as far as everything else, I feel like it's just been indoctrinated in us for generation to generation to say, all right, cool, this is your race and this is all that you are. When in actuality, we're not just one thing. Like nobody is just one thing, right? So yes, when you look at me, you absolutely see a black man with black features, right? But in actuality, I'm not only a black man with black features, right? My Cuban great great grandfather, my mom's great grandfather, Cuban, died in 85, right? The Maroons from Jamaica, which some of were the Africans and the indigenous people, the enslaved Africans, right? Yeah. And these are just the ones that I know, right? It could be a whole host of different stuff beyond that as well, right? The enslaved Africans, and also the Europeans, in which 97% of Jamaicans are both African and European ancestry, whether you want to believe it or not, right? So when people put on the paper black, white, this, that, right? I think people are just putting what looks good on paper or what they see when they look in the mirror, right? Not to say there aren't real issues in regards to race, because there absolutely is, right? I'm not going to sit up here and say that that doesn't exist, but that's something that humans formulated. Me personally, I believe that back in the day, right, back in the ancient society, I think people were a lot more tolerant and accepting of people of different races, right? I'm talking about prehistoric tribes, right? But I think sort of when you see somebody that's different from you, right? Imagine just growing up somewhere where people didn't. I was privileged because when I say privileged, I got to experience my grandfather being a different complexion than the rest of us, right? This is what I saw in my early childhood. So we didn't know about racism. Even though my grandfather was a black man, right? Like a Steph Curry, right? A light-skinned black man. At the same time, it's not until you come to America, right? Or you come out of that world where we're just people. Here, like here in this house, my grandfather showed everybody love. Everybody wanted to be a part of what everyone in the community would come to my grandfather's house. And he would never turn anybody away. You understand what I'm saying? But we're just people. We're just people, right? My grandfather always treated us with love. There was times when we would just go to, climb in a truck and just me and my grandfather. And we just go to a different town and would sell some fruits and sell some this and sell some that. Right? Just me and my grandpa. And what's racism at that point? It doesn't exist. Right? But then when you come to a different society, you see how important it is in the institution, right? You see how important they make it. Not that it is, but that they make it. But why is it important at all? When we're all just human beings. If we were that different, we wouldn't be able to come together and create such beautiful children. To be completely honest with you. Right? So you could be a white person and discriminate against black people, but don't even realize that maybe your great 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 grandfather was actually a black man that was discriminated against. Right? You may not even know that. But when you look at yourself, look at Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer that plays for Chelsea. Look at him. Right? Look at Cole Palmer that plays for Chelsea. Cole Palmer looks like he's a white kid. When you see his father was a black man. You see his grandfather, he was even darker complexion. Right? But that's how genes work. That's how genes work. Let's get into some more stuff. All right, so yeah, I'm probably gonna need some new moderators. Hide this guy on this channel because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Aziza says, hey, how are you, Aziza? Big up yourself. Hope all is well on this Sunday night. My sister is pregnant and I'm finally going to... Ooh, all right. I'm not going to read the rest of that. Bye-bye. I'm a Trump supporter, bro, but I don't hate on you. Listen, man. Listen. I'm not going to sit up here and say that I'm a Trump supporter or I'm a this supporter or I'm a that supporter, right? When it's all said and done, that's not what I identify as. If I'm going to vote for somebody, I'm going to vote for them, right? But I'm not going to blindly follow anybody, right? But big up to both of the candidates. May the best person win. That's all I have to say about that. I don't hate you either, Rooney. I don't hate anybody. Can you speak about Trump? What can I say about Trump? He's a very unique man. Very unique man. There are some things that I don't like about Trump, but there are some things that I could respect about him. I could respect the fact that he is himself as a politician, right? Of course, he does put on somewhat of a front sometimes, but he is himself the majority of the time. And in being himself, sometimes he just says some stuff that is just outlandish. But I'd rather him do that, right? And I'm not going to say he doesn't lie because they're politicians. They all do. But I'd rather him just be himself so that I know the type of person that I'm dealing with than somebody who just comes out and pretends to be someone else and is a completely different person, right? So that's my whole thing. So he says, reminisce about his gramps. God loves you no matter what. Cool socks, man, says someone else. Good, bro. Much love. Look at this creature. Good opinion, man. Listen, man, I'm not here to try to, I just don't want, I don't think the world needs to be so divisive, right? Like I was actually watching a Trump supporter the other day, and I was quite disappointed in him because this Trump supporter is a person that I sort of expected more from. I don't know why, but I just did. But then tapping in and tuning into his channel, I sort of heard some bigoted stuff. I heard some racism. I heard some very divisive. It was a very divisive message that he was spreading. And when you spread that divisive message in the name of someone that you say is your leader, right? It gets difficult for other people to really get behind you. Because if you're alienating the natives and you're alienating the blacks and you're alienating all these different groups of people, how can a black man support that? How can a Native American or a Native man support what you're saying, right? So I think there's a level of accountability that certain people do not want to take, right? They don't want to acknowledge the benefits that come from being who they identify as, right? There was this conversation about the natives that I really didn't like. There was this conversation about blacks that I really didn't like. And it was all in the name of who they deemed to be the best candidate, right? So when you have people that are running their own sort of campaigns and they're spreading a message and they're saying, hey, yeah, but by the way, this is the guy that we support and this is the reason why we support this guy, it gets difficult for other people to get behind you. And I understand that when it comes to Trump, right, and his whole campaign, he's a way more media savvy. And I think that because he's so known, because he's so well known, I think that he has a lot more support than the other side at this point in time. And I think the fact that Kamala Harris is so mixed, right? Because of course she's Indian as well. Like I'm not going to say she's not. Is she not? But yes, she is also black. Yes, it's actually true. Does she descend from slave owners? That's also a possibility as well. That can also possibly be true, right? Brownstown, the Browns family in Brownstown, right, owned slaves. But the Harrises, yeah, the vast majority of the Harrises, even though a lot of them are light skinned, are black people. I.e. me. And I'm not light skinned at all, right? I'm brown skinned, fair complexion. But yeah, you understand what I'm saying? So when it's all said and done, even though I would say, yes, a black man in terms of what it is that I look like and in terms of what you need sort of say to yourself, or basically lost in translation to who I really am, right? When you look at me, it's not hard to tell. So when people get on here and say, oh, she's not even black, I somewhat feel some type of way about it because I know the Harrises from Jamaica. It's not that many of us. It's only 9,400, right? Yeah, so, I don't really understand that whole concept. So, yes, she can be Indian and she can also be black. It's not illegal for people to be mixed. All of us, the vast majority of us, are products of mixed ancestors somewhere down the line. The vast majority of us. Right? I mentioned Cuban great grandfather, right? Or so it was told to me. That he came from Cuba, right? And he was a guy, he didn't really have the same texture hair that I do. It was a bit more straight. My grandfather and his lineage, you can take a look at him to see for yourself. Yeah, a black man, but he was a light-skinned black man. Highly likely that he descended from some, because I do have some family with green eyes and hazel eyes and all of that type of stuff as well, right? But who knows, right? But when people come up here and sit and they say, oh, no, she's not black and this, that, and the third, that's not accurate. That's far from accurate. That is far from accurate, right? She can be mixed. It's not illegal to be mixed, right? It's not illegal to be mixed with black. It's not illegal to be mixed with Indian. It's not, right? So if that's your reason to vote or not to vote, that's not a really good reason, to be completely honest with you. That's not a good reason. Vote for something beyond the superficial. Vote for something beyond what you see with your eyes. Hello, bro, says Anita. Big up yourself, Anita. Thank you so much, Owen. I really appreciate that. I sincerely do. It's just people dressing up their racism, finding a way to express it without being open about it, says Muzz. You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about that. It's people dressing up their racism, right? In which it would make more sense if a lot of us were more tolerant, right? I think once will we ever get rid of racism? I think so at some point. I think we have to, right? I think at some point the racist people are going to be the ones at the lowest part of the totem pole. I strongly believe that, as a matter of fact. And that's because everybody has some other different type of race in their background. Everybody. For the most part. Right? So what's the point? We are all just energy expressing itself in different ways. Energy, the same energy that can't be created nor destroyed. Right? The same energy that makes everything is within all of us. So yes, we're having a human experience. Right? But we're all just spiritual beings. She's mixed. How hard is that to comprehend? I think it's very hard for some people to comprehend. I think some people, again, like the last person said, they're dressing up their racism. Right? I hear black people, oh, she's not black. Why? Because she's not as dark as you? Like, are you the spokesperson for black people? Is someone going to tell me my grandfather wasn't black because he was light skinned? Because he may have had some European in his blood? Because my grandfather knew he was a black man, even though he was light skinned. Steph Curry's a light skinned black man, right? What's that guy's name? Broussard. Right? There's a lot of those people. What's that guy's name? Michael Ealy. Right? What's the big deal? You're going to tell them they're not black because they're light skinned? You're going to alienate them even further? Right? What's the qualifications? You have to be 51%? 60%? 70%? 90%? When you don't even know what percentage you are, right? You don't even really know the full context of who you are. You don't. Because you're just looking at the flesh. So yeah, I'll say, all right, cool, I'm a black man, right? I'll say it. right? In order to communicate with you, I'll say it. But I know it's more to me than just what I look like on the outside. Not only about what's in my blood, but what's in my spirit. It's that source we need to be identifying as. Not the physical body. The physical is just a shell. It's just a shell. Right? No disrespect to the shell at all. Because it also is an extension of the spirit. It's an extension of the soul. It's an extension of God. It's an extension of the energy that can't be created nor destroyed. That's what it's the extension of. That's who you are. That's who you need to identify as. Right? So yeah, while we're in this third dimension, cool. If you want to box yourself in, go right on ahead. Right? Well, for argument purposes, yes. Right? You could identify as whatever it is that you say you are. Right? You could say that. In this world, that's how you communicate. Right? When people look at me, when people say, oh, that guy, they give a description. What did he look like? Okay, black guy, 6'4", 6'3", 6'5", 6'10", 6'11", whatever it is, right? Dreadlocks, beard. Right? They need something to say. So they'll say that. But don't get stuck in that. Because if you're stuck in that, man, I tell you, man, I don't think you're ever really going to find happiness. Because there's always going to be somebody pissing you off. Just by being who they are. Step out of that, man. Step out of that. I think it's full time for people to really mature out of that. And just understand that we're all just energy expressing ourselves in different ways. Yes, we have different physical features. Yes, all of that. But at the end of the day, we're all just spiritual beings having a human experience. So please be mindful of that and love yourself. Learn to love yourself and learn to love your neighbor as well. If you were 5 inches in Harris and Trump was 5 inches in, whoa, okay. South Movie Action. I'm sorry, I don't even know what it is that you're talking about, but I'm gonna hide you from this channel. So have a great night. Free Spirit says you have a glow about you. Thank you so much. Infinite blessings to you as well, Free Spirit. Infinite blessings to you, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. But I think the glow really comes from within, man. It comes from the universe. I'm only an instrument of the universe, right? That's it. That's all it really boils down to. I'm only an instrument. So all of the visions, all of the dreams, everything that comes from the intangibles that come over here, that crosses over, whatever it is that I create, whatever it is that I say when I'm speaking, right? That's why a lot of times I don't prepare much when I come here, right? So me doing the little research, finding out who Joseph Alexander Harris was, right, was because my father texted me and was like, oh yeah, Camilla such and such, and mentioned cousin. And I'm like, whoa, well, this would be fun to tell my daughter. But before I tell my daughter, maybe I should do a little research to actually confirm. Can I confirm? I cannot confirm. But there is a possibility, and a strong possibility at that. Because there are only 9,400 Harrises from Jamaica. So at some point, the family, it must have crossed paths, right? 4 grandparents, right? 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, 32 great-great-great-grandparents, 64 great-great-great-great-grandparents, 128 great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, 256, I believe. If my math ain't mathing, let me know. But about 256, right? Whatever number, the last great-grandparent I said, and great-great-great-great-great-grandparent, right? So 256. And that's what I mentioned, maybe like 7 generations or something like that. Right? Think about how many kids they've had in between of them. 256 parents. Right? Started a whole bunch of different families. It's only 9,000 Harrises in Jamaica. Right? And the first one, evidently, or so they say, 1874. Joseph Alexander Harris. right? So that's what they say the name origin. I don't think he was the first one. I highly doubt he was the actual first Harris in Jamaica. But that's where it's thought to have derived from, right? So there you have it. Intelligent intellectual, says Free Spirit. I thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate that. Yes, you are behind the eyes, not in front of your skin. Ooh, Stan, those are some bars. Way behind the eyes. Because you know what, Stan? You are the observer, right? You're just the observer having this human experience, right? I did this actual experiment, right? I did it a number of times. I'm going to do it again tonight. I didn't invent this experiment. This is something that I saw KRS-One do, right? And it sums up so much, right? With so little. He used so little to sum up so much. And it made perfect sense, right? So I'm gonna do this little experiment with you guys, right? I'm gonna do this little experiment. KRS-One did this experiment, and when I saw this experiment, just watching his videos, I was a teenager at this time when I saw this video. I don't remember how old I was. Probably maybe 17, 18, 19, somewhere along those lines, right? But he wrote down a word. I'm going to write down a word. I'm going to think of a word. I'm going to write it down. And do not say the word. Don't say the word. Do not open your mouth to say the word. Don't say it, but see it. Look at the word. Read the word, but don't say it. Do not say the word. All right. Okay, I'm going to reveal the word. Do not say the word, right? This is the word. Okay. That's the word. When I showed you that word, did you not hear a voice say the word without verbalizing, there's no one else in the room probably, most likely, right? But you read the word and someone said the word. Who is that person that said the word? You heard the word, but who said it? You get what I mean? Right? So that proves that you are not your body. And the words come from somewhere. It doesn't just appear out of thin air. You understand what I'm saying? It absolutely comes from somewhere. It comes from source. Right? It comes from your spirit, which goes through your soul, right? Which goes through your brain. I don't have a map of all of it, right? But this is what it does. You verbalize it, you speak it, you utter it. The words that you say it's so powerful. But when you say the words, you don't see it. You can't physically put your eyes on the words, right? You may even be able to read lips, but physically you can't see the words that are coming out of my mouth. But do they have power? Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. Anyway, guys, usually I stick around for about an hour, right, when I do these streams. Probably not going to stick around for that much longer tonight, right? But I really had fun with you guys. I had fun talking about this. Went down memory lane, spoke about my grandfather. Rest in peace to Frederick Harris, who died in 2004. Give me a second. Let me see what this is. Rest in peace to Frederick Harris, who passed away in 2004. Right? But even though Frederick Harris passed on, he ain't dead. Right? He's still here. His bloodline still lives on. And so does my mother's father. He ain't passed on. He's still alive. But I'm also a part of my mother's father and all of my ancestors, just expressing themselves in what you could call a parallel universe. You could deem it a parallel universe. Why not? Right? Why? Because we're separated by the ego? You know what's crazy? It's not until you become a parent a lot of times that you really start to really gain this perspective, experience this perspective. It's such a beautiful thing, right? Because whenever I'm with my kid, whatever makes her happy makes me happy. It makes me even happier when she's happy than it would when I'm happy. You understand what I'm saying? It's crazy that her happiness and her smile makes me even happier than when I just smile by myself. Right? So are we really that separate? Can't be. I Show Speed says hi. How you doing, I Show Speed? Yeah, man. And oftentimes we just sit here and, we just think about me, me, me. And I'm not going to tell you don't love you. Love you. Absolutely love you. Love you. Learn to love yourself. And by loving yourself and learning how to love yourself, you learn to love other people around you. Right? The great man came onto this earth. I say great man because we don't put anyone on a pedestal, but he had a great lesson to teach everyone. When he said, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. He said, he without sin cast the first stone. And he said, love thy neighbor. Right? There's a lot of other things that he said, such as turn the other cheek. That's subjective. It all depends on why you're turning the cheek. Obviously you want to be nonviolent, but don't ever be a pushover, right? Obviously you do want to forgive, right? But in your forgiveness, please do not make the same mistake that you did before. So it's okay for you to forgive somebody. You're forgiving somebody, you're releasing it, right? Much like when you drink water, you release it. Much like when you eat food, you release it. You don't want to hold on to it too long because it becomes toxic. You want to get rid of it, right? And just like your thoughts, just like that anger and that envy, you want to release that and get rid of that. You don't want to keep that too long. You keep that, you're in for a long life, right? Because that starts to change your personality. It starts to change the way you look at life. Right? So if you want to have the best possible experience, you got to learn how to let things go, man. You got to. You got to. You understand what I'm saying? If it's not worth dying for, it ain't worth crying for. Trust me. Right? And even if you do go through a moment in time where you do get away from your balance and, you know what I mean, somebody knocked you off your perch, somebody managed to just ruffle your feathers, right? Get back into balance. Don't stay there. Do never, ever stay there. Do not stay out of balance, right? But it's human to react sometimes. It's human. It's a very human thing to be emotional, right? But you see, when you're able to step back and just analyze something, when you're able to step back and analyze, right? You're sending it over to the intangibles. You're sending it over to the intellect. You're sending it over to the soul. You're sending it over to source, right? Let those things guide you to make the right decision. Let those things work together to guide you to make the right decision. And oftentimes, man, our ego is trying to protect us. It's really trying to protect you. Or your ego is trying to protect you when it's like, hey, remember what happened in the last relationship? This girl right here, man, she gonna do you just like the last girl. Right? Because it stores that memory of what took place before. So you have that memory of the stuff that happened before. And now here you are trying, you really, on one level, you want a completely new experience on one level. On one level, you want this completely new experience. But on another level, you're stuck in the old experience. You can't let go of the old experience. But you want this new experience. You know you do. So then why don't you let go of the old one? You see where you are? You see where you are right now? Right? You want to go this way, right? But you won't let go of the rope that's holding you back. Guys, if we want a new world, it starts with each and every one of us, right? It starts with you. It starts with me. right? It starts with being the example that you want to set. We've all done things in the past that we ain't proud of. That's a very human thing to do. But once you get to that point where you reach that frequency, right? Where you're able to sort of dwell in that frequency, right? Which is a term that I use for lack of a better term, right? Eventually, one day I'll have a better way of explaining it. But when you get to that point where you're able to dwell in that frequency, that high frequency, you're not really gonna. It's like when you're communicating with people, right? Not because of their race, but because of the vibration that they're on. Not because of their social class, but because of the vibration that they're on, right? Let people come meet you at your vibration. Once you start lowering your vibration to where they are, that's when you start yelling profanities at them. That's when you start cursing like them, right? Because this is what you have to do to communicate with a lot of people who are in low frequency, low vibrational. They don't even know that they're low vibrational, right? It took an enlightened being, right? Again, human being just like us, spiritual being having this human experience just like us, right? To really come here, right? And when they nailed him to the cross, it was written that he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." For they know not what they do. And they was yelling at him, right? What was the other guy's name? Was it Barabbas? I think Barabbas was the guy that they wanted to let free, or they let him free, or something along those lines, right? But they let the guy that was the killer or the thief or whatever he was, right? That's the guy they let free. And this is the guy they wanted to nail to the cross. You understand what I'm saying? And he got up there and he said, man, they know not what they do. That's crazy. That is remarkable. I really sincerely appreciate everyone that was in this live tonight. It was a phenomenal live. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the channel PNMGM. We always have content like this. And I don't know, but for some reason, everything leads back to spirituality here, right? Everything leads back to spirit. Everything goes back to source. It's not a religion. I'm not a religious person, right? I know I quoted Jesus a few times tonight because, again, Jesus was a very inspirational person, right? Not only was he an inspirational person, there's a lot of other people that were inspirational as well, right? There were a lot of people that walked their own path, that were exiled, that were hated on, that were isolated, right? But they had a message to deliver. And they lived their truth, not only through their words, but through their actions, right? And none of us are perfect. None of them are perfect. But they're perfectly human, perfectly spiritual, right? Nobody's more spiritual than the other person. There might be people that are more aware of spirituality, but there's no such thing as more spirit. We're all spiritual beings. We all are. We're all quote unquote children, if that's how you want to call it, of God. All of us. So I think it's time we start acting like it. Right? I think it's time we stop allowing people to bring us down to their level. You know what I mean? And I'm never going to sit up here and tell you guys not to defend yourself. I'm never going to sit up here and tell you guys not to defend your families. Just like how we have the hurricane and we have storms. Hold on, give me a second. Just like how we have the hurricanes and we have storms and we have a whole bunch of other stuff, right? Just like how we have these things, right? Human beings go through different emotions and different things, right? At different times where they have to overcome an obstacle or go through something or whatever it is, right? But keep your mind on source and understand that you came here to have the experience that you came here to have, right? And even though sometimes it's not always pretty, it's okay. Keep going. David Wilson says, peace and blessings in the name of Christ. Infinite love, wealth, health, and prosperity. All the good things, all blessings, man, to you, David Wilson. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Big up to everybody out there that is religious. Again, I'm not religious, but thank you so much. And big up to Christ. Big up to the Prophet Muhammad, right? Which he's known as. And big up to everybody that's out there that follows something, whatever religion it is that you choose to follow. If you feel like this is what your life's path is, then by all means, go right on ahead. And for everyone else out there, I hope you guys have a phenomenal night. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to tell yourself something kind. Say something kind to yourself tonight. When you wake up tomorrow, say something kind to yourself. And continue to do that right throughout the day, right? Continue to be kind to yourself. Continue to love yourself. Continue to elevate your frequency, right? You got the power to be whatever it is that you want to be. You have the power to change your vibration. None but ourselves can really do that, right? So start doing that. And have a wonderful night, everyone. I will see you guys again tomorrow. I'll probably be doing multiple streams tomorrow, yet I don't know. But definitely be back here at 11:30 tomorrow night. PNMGM. Live is but a stream. Thank you, guys. I am gone. Later.